to Franchise Sports TV, back again with another video. This one's going to be a little bit different, a little bit fun. But before we begin, hit that like, especially hit that like, hit the subscribe button, comment, share down below. So I have a little something special for today. I'm thinking. I think out of the recent finals runs, the 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers, sorry, trying to choke. The 2021 Milwaukee Bucks, in my opinion, behind the Milwaukee Bucks finals run, I think the 2011 Dallas Mavericks run is one of the most entertaining. For some reason, watched that one very closely. Now, many people enjoy that run mainly because it stopped LeBron and the Miami Heat from getting their first ring. Well, not the Miami Heat's first ring, but LeBron's first ring. But, it came after he did that legendary, speech.
And this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
LeBron, tell us about that.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7. Hey, and when I say that, I really believe it.
Now, looking back at this team, you wouldn't expect to win anything. Win anything close to a finals. Now, look. He got Dirk. He's top 75 all time. That's great. But his team was Tyson Chandler, Shawn Marion, an older Shawn Marion, Deshaun Stevenson, an older Peja Stojakovic, Jason Terry, Caron Butler, and Corey Brewer, which I forgot he was even on the team. Now, Tyson Chandler was traded from the Charlotte Bobcats during the offseason for Eric Dampier and Andrew Nahara. I never pronounced his first name. Anybody remember Nahara from the early Dallas Mavericks? Yeah, he was still on the team. He was a big part of those early 2000s teams, Dallas Mavericks teams, I should say, who were good but never got past the Lakers or Spurs, maybe even the Kings. Shawn Marion and Peja Stojakovic were once on championship-like teams. Shawn Marion being on the Suns with Steve Nash and Amari part of the Big Three for the Suns, but never got anywhere. He was traded for Shaq in 2008. And was sent to Miami, then traded again to the Raptors the next year, then traded again in a signing trade to the Mavericks. Peja was on the Kings, the Sacramento Kings, with Chris Webber, Lottie Divac, and many others. They just never got over the hump because certain referees were in favor of the Lakers. Similar to Shawn Marion, Peja was traded from the Pacers, the Hornets, and the Raptors. His career towards the end was marred by injuries, mainly with his knee and neck injuries, but continued to keep on playing. Jason Kidd was in the same boat. He went back home, where he was drafted in 1994. He was supposed to be the light to the Mavericks in the 90s, but that didn't happen. Couldn't get along with Jamal Mashburn, Jim Jackson, and some other coaches. Well, there was actually something else going on with Jim Jackson and Kidd and the singer. Famous singer. We ain't gonna talk about that right now. Anyways, Kidd went to the Suns, then to the Nets. He went to the two finals with the Nets, losing both to the Lakers and the Spurs, and then went back to Dallas in 2008. Jason Terry was on the team with Dirk since 2004 and was on that 2006 Mavericks team that lost to the Miami Heat in a lopsided series. And the reason why I say it's a lopsided series is because, once again, the refs were involved. I should do a video on how many free throws the Miami Heat shot during that finals. Deshaun Stevenson will be beneficial in the long run. Tim Thomas was signed to the team, that same Tim Thomas from the Milwaukee Bucks days, but he didn't play due to helping his wife's illness at the time. Caron Butler was on the team. He was traded to the Mavericks in the previous season. The Mavericks giving up Mavericks legend Josh Howard to the Washington Wizards. Stevenson was also part of that trade as well. Dirk lost to the Miami Heat in 2006 in the finals. In the 2009-2010 season, they were kicked out by the 7th-seed San Antonio Spurs. 2008-2009 season, they beat the Spurs but were kicked out by the Denver Nuggets led by Carmelo. And in the 2007-2008 season, they were kicked out by Chris Paul and the New Orleans Hornets. So yeah, he wasn't getting much luck in the playoffs around this time. He was not having a good time, and many wonder if the international great would ever get his ring. For the regular season, Coach Rick Carlisle, the team never went below 500 in any month of the season. Their best was 11-3 in November, and in December 10-1. 11-3 in November and December. They went 10-1 in the month of February, and their worst month was being 8-8 in January. Dirk led the way in scoring with 23 points per game. Caron Butler was next up with 15, but only played 29 games, because he was lost for the rest of the season with a season-ending knee injury. So behind Dirk to pick up the slack was Jason Terry with 15 points a game and Shawn Marion at 12. All of that will qualify to go to the playoffs, and Dirk played out of his mind, as we all know, but we'll get to that. I think the underrated part of this team was the defense with Tyson Chandler. Also in the backcourt with either Jason Kidd or Deshaun Stevenson. They finished the season 55-27 as a third seed in the West. Their first opponent, the Portland Trail Blazers, were LaMarcus Aldridge, Brandon Roy, and Andre Miller. The Mavericks won the first two games at home. Portland won game 3 and 4, before Dallas finished them off in Portland and then in Dallas. Next up was the defending champs, the LA Lakers. I think most people were looking at the series as an easy win. But did that happen? Absolutely not. The first game was a close game in LA, but the Mavericks edged that out by 2. Game 2 of the Mavericks won by 11. Game 3 in Dallas, the Mavericks won by 6. And Game 4 wasn't even close. Game 4 was a massacre. Game 4 was the same game that Andrew Bynum decided to knock little J.J. Barea off his rocker. You can tell that each game, Kobe was not having it. And unfortunately, it would be the last time Kobe would go to the playoffs and pretty much spell the end of his reign in the NBA. But there was also great defense on Kobe by the likes of Deshaun Stevenson, Shawn Marion, even Jason Kidd, and some others who gave Kobe some trouble. But the Lakers had no answer for Dirk. Probably the closest would have been Paul Gasol, but nope. Plus, Chandler made Andrew Bynum almost a non-factor in this series. Next up was the young, tough OKC Thunder. The Thunder came off the series wins against the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, who upset the Spurs. Kevin Durant was making a name for himself, especially after the 2010 FIBA World Cup Championship. But not to forget about Russell and James Harden and Serge Ibaka. Yes, the OKC team was, like I said before, young and tough, fast, high jumping, even gave the previous champion, the Lakers, a scare the year before, and in round 1. But also, they was very close to the Mavericks. The Mavericks were coming off rest. They swept the Lakers. From beating those Lakers damn bad. They beat them really bad that game 4. Anyways, I don't know why I'm reminiscing about that. But in game 1, the third quarter, the Thunder actually had a 9-point lead going into there. But Dirk was way too much scoring, 48. And yeah, I remember that game. He actually went crazy. I think that was like the only game I actually watched from start to finish. But he also had some help from J.J. Barea. I think the Mavericks had like a perfect free throw percentage in that game too. Thunder got game 2, the bench scoring 50 points led by James Harden. Well, he didn't have 50 points, but he led that bench, of course. Let's not misinterpret that. But after the Mavericks really put their foot on the series. Dallas out-rebounded them, had less turnovers, more assists, thanks to Jason Kidd, of course. And the defense also. And they also couldn't outshoot the Mavericks, who had shooters like Paige Stojakovic, Dirk, J.J. Barea, even Jason Terry. Plus, the Thunder had no interior scoring from anyone, where the Mavericks had Chandler. The Mavericks won the series 4-1, advancing to the NBA Finals a second time and faced the Miami Heat a second time. I remember going into this one, there was a lot of tension for this one. First, no one liked LeBron at this time. People wanted to see LeBron lose. I know there was tension in Dallas too. The pain from the 2006 was still fresh in their minds fresh in the minds of the Dallas Mavericks fans. And now they has to face the fake GOAT and his stacked team again. Well, Dwayne Wade again. Game 1 was a close one. The Mavericks had a lead going into the third. Even though LeBron nor Dwayne Wade really had a good game in this one, but defensively they stepped up. But Dirk would tear a tendon in his finger. I think he tore it in his pinky. I don't know for sure. I don't remember the specifics on that, but I know he tore a tendon in one of his fingers. But the Heat will win Game 1. But, as we all know, Game 2 was a different story. Mavericks came back from 15 down to win this game. LeBron was nowhere to be found. But I'll get on that later. Game 3, the Heat bounced back, only to win by 2 points. Actually, I think the Mavericks came back from another large lead, but it wasn't enough. Game 4, Jason Terry had a game, but LeBron only had 8 points. But this would be known as the flu game for Dirk. As we all know, how it was reported Dirk had an illness, the flu, and how LeBron and Dwayne Wade basically kind of mocked it. So, yeah. Dirk had 21, but everybody else stepped up. This game was notorious. Yeah, like I said, game was notorious for Dirk and not Dirk. I'm so sorry. Dwayne Wade and LeBron doing that. But the Mavericks made a mockery of him. 3 for 11 shooting. Nothing from three-point line. Locked up by Jason Terry, Jason Kidd, with a little dash of Deshaun Stevenson, who wanted some smoke for LeBron for those years back when LeBron was in Cleveland and Deshaun Stevenson was in Washington. And I think this was kind of like somewhat the blueprint maybe the Spurs had. I know Popovich was known as saying that he wanted to clog up the middle because he knew LeBron likes to go to the basket and bully his way to the basket. So he made sure he had the bigs like Tim Duncan down there for all the series that he ever played with them. And Mavericks kind of did the same thing. I realized about LeBron, not to go too far off the deep end, what the Dallas Mavericks did, he does not like physical contact. He likes to bully people, but when he can't bully that person who's playing defense on him, he tends to, especially when they know how to play defense on him, force him to his offhand. He likes to pass the ball a lot. And I realized that with this series. I realized that when Kobe holds him. I realized that when, to a certain point with Andre Iguodala, he does not like physical contact. If he can't get to the basket, you got to force him to shoot. He will pass that ball. But he has gotten better with that a little bit since then. But going back to this. I said a lot in that. After Game 4, LeBron wasn't the same. The Heat wasn't the same. Dwayne Wade had to carry the load. I think for the most part of the series, Rick Carlisle let Jason Terry run the offense to help Dirk out. And pretty much with the three-point shooter Dirk, Peja, and many others on that team, the Mavericks ran off with the series, winning it 4-2. We know Dirk was emotional, ran into the locker room, and came back out to accept the trophies after that season. Unfortunately, parts of the team started to split. After this season, Peja Stojakovic finally got his ring, and he retired. A nice way to go off into the sunset. And I think his son is like big time now in high school. I think he's going to be in college next year, playing for Stanford. Much of the team separated in the following years. The year after winning, they were 7th seed, and they were swept by the Western Conference champs, eventual Western Conference champs, the OKC Thunder. Mavericks were always a first-round exit during Dirk's last years, and sometimes not even getting to the playoffs. But since Dirk's retirement in 2019, they have recovered with the likes of Luka Doncic. But that's a different story for a different day. Now, what made that 2010-2011 team so good or memorable was their offensive rating of 109.7, 8th in the league. 105 in defensive rating, 8th in the league that year. And they can move the ball around because they had people like Jason Kidd. They averaged 23.8 assists per game, 2nd in the league. But they suck offensively when it comes to rebounding, very low, but ranked higher on the defensive side. So those are perfect pieces of a championship team put together, if you think about it. Now, let's be honest. during that finals run, you can watch Dirk at those games, and you realize he couldn't be stopped. He was a man on a mission, even with the illness, and he was trying to prove something. And now, his run with the Dallas Mavericks has cemented him in history. That's one of the best runs in NBA history for a title. But tell me what you guys think.